What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our Big 12 football channel.
The Mountaineers have wrapped up spring camp, their first one under a new head coach, Neil Brown. We're here to wrap up our look at the Mountaineers. Of course, the best way I can figure out to do that is to bring in Skylar Callahan. You can join Skylar and the rest of the crew there at Dub V Nation. Skylar, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Always a blast to be back on this show. I love it.
Absolutely. Love to have you. Hopefully we can blast this out to get some West Virginia fans engaged here and get your analysis. That starts with Marcus Sims. So here's a guy that contributed to one of the best wide receiver corps in all of college football last year, and there's some injury news concerning him.
Yeah, I actually spoke to a source close to the situation, and last week I found out that he had the real reason why he had not been at spring practice was due to a lingering injury that happened earlier in the year against Baylor when he tweaked his hamstring. We all know about the concussion against in the Oklahoma game that knocked him out. He showed the emotion on the sideline, wanted to get back in there and play, but it's actually his hamstring that's been bothering him. He had an MRI within the last 2 weeks, and they're going to reevaluate him here within 3 weeks. So don't really know what the status of him is going to be moving forward. It seems to be a lingering issue, but hopefully he can get back in time for fall camp and everything gets 100% for him.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down West Virginia. We got Skylar Callahan on the line. You can join him and the rest of the staff there at Dub V Nation. All right. Before we dive into the football, these new uniforms, they trotted these guys out at halftime of the spring game. I saw some of the pictures. What are your thoughts?
I love them, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, they're kind of just a revised, cleaner version of what we just had. And I mean, you could still tell that the pickaxe font on the numbers are still kind of there. It's just a little, I guess, more modern look than I guess a cartoon look that some people were complaining about. But it's almost a 50-50 with the fans. You're never going to please every fan. You're always going to have those fans out there that hate no matter what they trot out there in. But as I told the fan base yesterday, it doesn't matter. If Neil Brown wins games at West Virginia, no one cares what they're going to be wearing. It doesn't matter if it's pink, purple, blue, gold. It doesn't matter. As long as he wins games, that's all it's going to matter. But I do love the look. They're bringing the gray uniforms back from the Geno Smith era, Tavon Austin, Stephen Bailey. I love that. But, yeah, it's a nice, clean, simple look that it seems like a lot of teams in the Big 12 are starting to go to.
People don't like change.
No, they do not.
People don't like to be changed in any way. It's good for us usually. All right, let's look at what happened, not just in the spring game, but over these 15 practice sessions. And I know it's difficult to get information out of camp, especially when a new coach comes in. He might be a bit tight-lipped, and he's just trying to get his feel for the personnel as well. But in regards to what did you, in your mind, have answered over the last month?
Really, it's been about the defense. What are we going to see from this Vic Koenig defense? It's a complete different scheme from what Tony Gibson ran here for the last 5-6 years or so with that 3-3-5. Everyone kind of wondered, is it going to be a 3 down front? Is it going to be a 4 down front? Is it going to be a mixture of both? And I think we got a lot of answers out of that because now we've got some guys that were normally linebackers coming down playing on as a defensive end or a pass rusher like Quandarius Qualls or Vandarius Cowan, the transfer from Alabama. So it's more of a 4-down lineman look. And I just really like how the defense just attacks the ball and they don't really wait for the offense to necessarily come to them, where in the 3-3-5 you had all those safeties in the back end of the defense and they kind of played back and really the scheme for that was just don't let them get past you. Keep everything in front of you, where here this defense is you just attack the ball and if you mess up, if you mess up on, if you ever run a guy or if just completely miss your coverage, you have another guy behind you to make up for that. Where in the 3-3-5, there was holes and gaps everywhere. And you could see it from the press box. Sometimes when I was working the games last year, there's big holes in that 3-3-5 defense, and you're just sitting there waiting for these quarterbacks to pick you apart, especially like Kyler Murray. And now I don't think the gaps will necessarily be as big as they were in the past because you have those guys being able to cover those miss coverages.
It's a defense that ranked 74th in the nation, giving up 405 yards per game. That's not mighty impressive, but considering the schedule and the offenses in the Big 12 and the style of play that's predicated by the other offenses in the Big 12, but also the West Virginia offense scoring and getting off the field so heavily. That has to be taken into context, and now a different scheme. And you can look at that both ways. If you've got athletes, you want them to run and hit and not think. At the same time, there is a safety net to playing a certain kind of defense where you say, okay, we're going to make this team travel 80 yards, and most likely they're going to make a mistake that's going to shut down the drive. And if we keep everything in front of us and make tackles, but then you build a defense that the players aren't aggressive, they're not hungry, they're not going after it, and you don't create many turnovers. And you need turnovers to win games in the Big 12, in particular on defense, I think, because basically you're trying to outscore someone, and turnovers are enormous. And we saw that in the Oklahoma game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really Vic Koning's main point of emphasis right now, is creating turnovers and attacking to the ball. And it's all about technique right now. Really, I know a lot of the fans were expecting the defense to just kind of come out and shut things down, because let's be honest, the defense is ahead of the offense right now because there's more returners on that side of the ball. It's less change as far as position. I mean, there is some position changes, but for the most part, those guys are coming back. They've had experience there. They've got the depth at certain positions, especially in the secondary. But really in the spring, it was more about focusing on teaching these guys technique and form and stuff like that, and kind of really trying to get the lingo down of this defense, because it's a complete different switch from that 3-3-5. And as Koning said in the past, he wants headhunters. He wants guys that are not afraid to hit. And if you're not afraid to hit, or if you are afraid to hit, they're going to make you be able to hit. You know, it's just one of these kind of defenses where you've got to have that aggression, or else you're not going to see the field under Koning. And I think he's happy. He's pleased with where this defense is at right now, but he knows they've got a lot of work to go before they want to get to where they want to be. And that's obviously at the top of the Big 12 in defensive categories. But, you know, I think that there's, you know, with some of these freshman guys coming in and JUCO guys coming in as well, he's got to wait for those bodies to get here before we really see what that defense is going to be like.
Mark Rogers, TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love better than anyone else. Discussion, debate, and analysis, and getting you set for West Virginia 2019, courtesy Skylar Callahan. You can join him and the rest of the staff there at Dub V Nation. All right, those are some answers. There's obviously still questions. Everybody goes into August with a number of position battles and things that need to be addressed. What are going to be those things that you're thinking about during the summer in regards to, hey, let's head toward August. I want to see this out of the Mountaineers before we hit the field August 31st.
Well, honestly, I think it's all on the offensive side of the ball. And that's, you know, kind of a stunner, because when you think West Virginia, you think there's no question about the offense. There's always going to be talent there, and there still will be. But it's usually the defense that has the question marks. Where this year you're replacing so much talent with Will Greer, Gary Jennings, Trayvon Wesco, David Sills, Yanni Kajust on the offensive line. The list goes on and on. You lost so much production. I think it was 43% of the offense had left this past season. So you're going to have to replace that. And obviously it starts at the quarterback position with Jack Allison and Austin Kendall, the Oklahoma transfer. And really, neither one of them really kind of, you know, emerged as a true starter or a guy that could maybe win this job in the spring. They kind of both had good days. They both had bad days. Once one got a little bit ahead, then they kind of fell back a little bit. There wasn't enough consistency. And as Neil Brown says, you know, he expected this from the quarterbacks because you're learning a new system. He's given them equal reps with these new receivers and stuff. So it's going to take time for them to get their chemistry. But I would assume that one of these guys is going to emerge before the end of camp. And I don't think this is going to be a 2-quarterback system thing. I think Neil's going to want to pick one guy and settle on him. I think it's going to be Austin Kendall. But with Jack Allison having that chemistry and camaraderie with some of these offensive linemen and receivers, he may have the upper edge on Kendall for that fact. But also, you got to look at the playmaking positions. I mean, we have 4 running backs coming back, probably the deepest running back core in the Big 12. The biggest question, though, is the offensive line. You cannot run if you don't have an offensive line. And that's something that Matt Moore, the offensive line coach, is really worried about right now, is getting enough bodies up front to really, put together a really good run game, because right now that offensive line is kind of a mess. And they're kind of dealing with a couple of injuries right now with Josh Sills kind of rolled up his ankle. He's okay now, but, they're not going to go very far in the Big 12 this year if they cannot get that run game going, because that is the strength of this team.
Yeah, and we mentioned off the top how good the wide receivers were last year. You mentioned to me off record Sam James, Bryce Wheaton, a couple of young guys that are going to step in and maybe make an impact, you hope, this year.
Yeah, Bryce Wheaton's a big kid, 6'4", about 210, 215 pounds. Kind of looks almost like the same body frame as a David Sills. Hopefully, he could take that what David Sills had taught him for the last year or two and run with it. And Sam James, he's just a burner. I mean, he is one of the fastest guys I've ever seen at in Morgantown. So hopefully he can kind of take over that role. And again, it's going to be tough for these guys to come in as redshirt freshmen with a new quarterback and a new coaching staff and a new system and really flourish. But hopefully they can do something to kind of, get them their confidence going in the right direction, because you got guys like TJ Simmons coming back and hopefully Marcus Sims that can kind of guide these guys throughout the 2019 season.
Should be an interesting year. New head coach, new quarterback, new playmakers on offense. The defensive personnel back, but playing a slightly different scheme under the Mountaineer system here with the new unis. Don't forget about the new unis. So they're going to look different entirely much of the time. Skylar Callahan breaking down West Virginia football. You got to join him on Dub V Nation. Want to make sure that we get everybody straight on that. You got a podcast that comes out every week as well, right?
That's right. Every Friday, you can listen to us on SoundCloud, Podbean, iTunes, I believe, pretty much any streaming app you can find. And we're also live in the Charleston area on 9:50 a.m. WBES Charleston. So check us out on Between the Years podcast.
Excellent. Skylar, we appreciate you stopping by. I can't cover West Virginia football. I got too many things going on, so I need guys like you that really are on top of it. And so I learn a lot, and I get myself set as well as anybody else, because I want to know what personnel is on every team in the nation. So that's what I try to get myself prepared for. So I appreciate you dropping the names. Then I can go back and look these guys up and get myself set for 2019 as well.
No problem. We appreciate you having us on. And, yeah, it's going to be an interesting season this year under Neil Brown. So we can't wait to cover them for the first time.